There are two things that if you do correctly on your very first night of Milky Way photography, you will have a success. Next on Milky Way Wednesday. Hey guys, it's Wednesday. It's time for Milky Way. Welcome back to Milky Way Wednesday. This is the beginning of me doing Milky Way Wednesdays pre-produced. So instead of looking over there and seeing the chat live right now, as we used to do this live, I am premiering this live. So if you're noticing right now, and it's 7 o'clock on Mountain Time, you're watching this live. There's also a live chat channel going on right now, somewhere right here, maybe? And I'm in it as well with you. So if you're not talking to me already, chat right now. I'm in here. Hey guys, I'm going to be live tonight in studio during this recording. So this is a pre-recorded production that has a premiere happening that allows a live chat to go on. And then anytime someone watches this in the future, it's still the same pre-recorded thing, but chat is gone and you only have comments down below. So if you have any questions for me, you want to ask me specifically about Milky Way stuff, or you have a request, make sure you go to milkywaywednesday@gmail.com. Send me any messages you would like. milkywaywednesday@gmail.com is the email that you can send any questions you want, and I'll tackle them right here on the show. So this week, well, we're going to talk about a couple of things that if you do correctly, you're going to have an awesome image, even if it's your very first night. It could be something you've never done before, or it could be something you've done 100 times before. But if you're doing these two things correctly, you will have an image like this one that just pops off the screen. It's so easy to get it right. So just, what are they? What are the things that happen? Well, typically I'll go into a workshop and I will have a scenario where people who have jumped into the workshop have done it before and they're just happy with the way they're doing things, and I can get resistance. It's something that people worry about, not telling you what those two things are yet, but I get a resistance, and I want to make sure that you guys are encouraged from the very beginning to try this out before you begin any other habit. If you're watching this video right now and then you find out what those two things are and you think, I hate that second one, I never do that, it's okay. Fine, that's your way of capturing. But I'm telling you, if you have never done this before, start with these two things and grow and polish and get better from there. So check out this image right here. This is an image coming from Allison. And Allison Holmes over in, we were at Cannon Beach, and Kirk Keyes popped in, found her and Ron first before he joined up with myself and Terry, and they were talking about doing photography right there. They were there for sunset, and Kirk encouraged them to stay for Milky Way. She's like, wow, yeah, Milky Way will be good tonight. I've always tried. I did it once, but it didn't really turn out the way I wanted. I got frustrated. So Kirk and her talking, and we show up. We're all encouraging her. Yeah, you should definitely stay. Just an hour and 20 minutes from now, the Milky Way is going to be right there. So it's going to be awesome. Come with us. And here, borrow this lens. This lens is going to help you a lot more. It's a Rokinon 24mm. You can open it up on your Canon 7D. That'll be great. Okay, borrow this. Sweet. Okay, perfect. And now I'm going to do this. We're going to borrow this. It was great. She could borrow things from us to get tonight, or that night, which was, today's Wednesday. So it was just last Friday night. Last Friday night, she had a success. And here's the image that she captured. This 24mm cropped in. It's definitely tough to fit everything in this scenario, but she got enough of Haystack Rock, enough of the waves that were coming in towards high tide on us and literally pushing us out of position because the high tide was pushing us back further on the beach, and capturing the core of the Milky Way. One cool thing about this image is I don't believe she's done a stitch of editing to it. I think this is 100% Allison's raw image that came straight out of camera. Can you believe it? She did those two things, and it looks awesome. This next image comes from William Diapolino, as we called him on the workshop. This guy had done some star shots before coming out to Escalante with me, and he had never ever done it really with the Milky Way in view. Never done it before. He took some advice from me, and this is what his image turned out to be on his very first night of Milky Way. If you've watched the previous live Milky Way Wednesdays, you recognize Root Scalante. Root Scalante was his decision to shoot this tree in the roots. He devised and composed this entire shot. And then I was just there as a consultation cheerleader to say, that looks great, get this, let's light over here, and let's get this in focus, boom, 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 looking awesome. So this was his first image, and let me go to his other one from the next night. Here's Sunset Arch, capturing a panorama, something he also hadn't really done before, and he's got a panorama of the Milky Way over Sunset Arch. Looks awesome. Last week's workshop, Terry Willem joined me, and Terry at this Instagram account, so you guys can follow all of them from following Allison, William, and going over to Terry if you want to check out their stuff. I think some of them are private, so you have to ask their permission to see their work. But Terry had never captured the Milky Way before. She really wanted to. I think she mentioned having tried it before, but she got a new camera. She got a new tripod. She was ready with a new geared head. Oh, this was the workshop. She wanted to capture a Milky Way. Well, on her first night, she did the two things correct and captured such a cool image, she wondered what else she could do now. We got some time and there's no clouds in the sky. And I introduced her to time lapses. And boy, oh boy, was this awesome. You might recognize the song that I use here. This is me. And man, all of her friends totally love this image. Beach, sand. Well, you don't really see the sand, but the water coming in off of the coastline. At this time of year, it was a little bit more of a challenge as the high tide, being at the exact time we were out, was blocking us from being able to get closer to those rocks. So instead, we had a tall image with the Milky Way, and just look, zero, absolutely zero clouds were right there. It was tremendous. So, what is it? What is it that these three people did right on their, well, first or second ever try of the Milky Way? Let's break it down over on my iPad. Doing these two things, your first Milky Way will be awesome, is not just a glorified clickbaity title. It's not just something that I'm trying to say to get your attention. It's true. This is the one, these two things are the things that made my first year a success despite being a complete noob at Milky Way photography. And my best images came from a third or fourth element of polish that, separated them from the beginners. But I nailed this second thing halfway through my first year, and I tried to nail the first thing right from the beginning. Can you guys guess what the first thing might be? What are the challenges that we have in Milky Way photography? Focus. And this little guy, $5 off of Amazon. There's a link below if you don't have one already. Go to Amazon. It's going to be an Amazon affiliate link through Photog Adventures, and so you'll get a little commission my way. So thank you so much if you use the link. But this little guy, for $5, let's pretend that my phone over here is the back of my LCD screen. Because of the cup, I go completely flush against the LCD screen. I don't have to hold my focus like this. And then I look through there, one hand holding the Carson LumiLoupe and the other hand twisting the focus ring. And you know what, guys? You do this correctly, your image is going to be amazing. Oh, it's going to make shapes. I don't want to make shapes. Let's go ahead and do this brush. Focus. Focus. You nail the focus, you practically can't do anything wrong. Your friends aren't going to critique your composition. They're not me. They're going to anally look at it and go, well, it could be better here, here, and here. Your friends are going to say, wow, look at the Milky Way. I've never seen the Milky Way, but you nailed the Milky Way. You get focus right, boom, you got it. But let me just emphasize one thing, guys. If you go to your focus point right here, put your Carson LumiLoupe up on it and go, yeah, there we go. I nailed it. Let me look at it again up close. So your Carson LumiLoupe cup is around that star, and that star gets bigger and it gets smaller. How do you know you nailed it? By looking away and then coming back. You can't. And I get this question a lot in the workshop, and I have to tell them, they're like, hey, Aaron, check this focus. Do you think I got it? Unfortunately, the shape of the blob, the shape of the blob being this or this or this, is a difference so tiny that without knowing your lens, without knowing where you've bin and you're focusing, I can't tell if that's the smallest amount. So you have to teeter-totter. You have to go beyond focus where it goes from the point all the way to a big blurry point. Then you need to go back down to where it gets to the small point and then go beyond it where it gets a little bit blurry again. So you want to go out of focus, in focus, out of focus, in focus, out of focus, in focus a couple times. And as you get to that in focus point and you notice, okay, I can tell where it goes smallest and then gets bigger again, smaller, then get bigger again, smaller, then gets bigger, bigger, smaller, smaller, smaller. Now you have this small range that you can settle in any one of those spots. And you might find in your lens that you have a little bit of a good dot, but some pink aberration on one side. But if you twist it a little bit more, it seems like the pink aberration goes away. If you get rid of that, if you're seeing that, make it only white. That's a good little judgment at the very end to make sure it's working. I've even seen it where I get a little bit of yellow in there. And so I go back to where I see white. I don't want any colors twisting or aberrating out of my focus. I just want it to be nice. And this is when I'm looking at a planet, and for the last couple of years, it has been Jupiter. So when you're looking at your focus, teeter-totter into the smallest and go beyond it. So you're going to constantly twisting that thing. And the only way to really know if you nailed it is if you go beyond and then back and then beyond and back and then finally settle on the best option. So nail that focus. Nail it. That will make a successful image. Well, what's the other thing? The other thing is that awesome item called the histogram. And you need to nail this histogram, this midpoint of your histogram. You do not, I repeat, I'll draw this in red, so you do not want your histogram to look like this. If your histogram is all the way over there to the far left, you're blowing it. You're totally blowing it. Why? Because now you've underexposed everything in your Milky Way, and when you try to bring it back up in post, you're taking an image that's underexposed and expanding and magnifying the lack of exposure, instead of taking something overexposed and bringing it down a little bit, or on the perfect neutral exposure and bringing it in and tightening it. I'm going to do a representation of this in one of the Milky Way Wednesdays that'll hopefully make sense to everyone, where you introduce more noise, post-processing an underexposed picture than you do by exposing properly. Why do I bring up noise? It is literally the number one concern that someone gives me when I say, oh, what's your ISO at? I'm at 3200. I don't really dare going any higher than 3200. And I'm like, dude, double it. Start here and then go up. Well, how will I know when to stop? Well, once that histogram shows the separation of blacks and then a valley, and then it touches to the middle point. Your shape, your precise shape could be something like this, and then it touches the middle point, and that's okay. Why would it give that weird, funky little hump? Mostly because you're probably light painting a subject that doesn't have a lot of blacks or a lot of midtones, and it makes that happen. But your histogram did reach this point, that center. That's the key thing. So if at 6400 you're just shy, go to 8000. See if it's hitting it. If it's not hitting it at 8000, go to 10,000. If it's not hitting, go to 12,800. Definitely you're introducing more noise to your foreground the higher ISO you're going. You're also taking some of those star colors and losing them with the higher ISO that you're going. But the first thing you want to do right is get the Milky Way looking great. And if you don't have a proper histogram, a histogram that shows like this, and let me draw the square again so you can emphasize it. A histogram with the middle that has a peak of black, a separation, and whatever shape it takes touches there, as long as it touches here. So key points, touching in this center. Oops. And having a separation right here. You have a separation between those two humps and you're touching the center without going beyond it. You made it. You've got a good exposure. Focus and a properly exposed Milky Way will look tremendous. Let's look at this image again. She did it with her time lapse. William did it with his Root Scalante. And Allison did it with her raw, not processed, foggy, misty, on the beach, right in the water capture of the Milky Way next to Haystack Rock at Cannon Beach. This is absolutely 100% possible for all of you to do on day one. So don't ignore your histogram. Don't ignore your focus. Don't think, man, I got this focus. My lens is really easy. Or I focused earlier in the day. Have you bumped it since then? Has the temperature changed enough that your range in your infinity has moved a little bit on you? Just focus it right there on the spot. Know that you got it nailed, and you will have a successful first image. All right, so now it's time for a moment of envy. This week on Moment of Envy, I am featuring a photographer straight from MilkyWayPhotographers.com. In fact, every week I'm going to feature awesome photographers from MilkyWayPhotographers.com showing an image of theirs that I just adore. I looked at it and instantly I was like, okay, that's awesome. That's some good work. So today the image comes from Roland Scalet. And I don't know if it's Scalet or Scale, but Roland Scalet. I really want to put it like a French accent, Scale, but I don't know Roland. But Roland has an awesome image here on MilkyWayPhotographers.com, and he shared it with us, and it's this awesome panorama over Innsbruck, Austria. He says, in May 2019, Milky Way over Innsbruck, Tyrol. As always, there was only one night with good weather. The whole week this shot was possible this year. So he says, as always, there was only one night with good weather. The whole week this shot was possible this year. So there's a week when this shot is possible, and of course there was only one night that was actually good weather, allowing him to do it. And I believe this is Roland right here. That looks awesome. And he goes, it's a fun night off my camera, a fox, some deer, and a rabbit, and 6-image single row panorama, 20 millimeter, 2.0 f-stop. It's a vertical. He captured 5 of them with 15 seconds each to create this panorama. And if you want to follow Scaler over on his Instagram, here's actually a quick view of Innsbruck, Austria. I don't know where he was, up here or up on this hill. It looks awesome. I'm stoked about the shot. And Roland Scale, you can follow him right here. I have the information on the next screen too. Go to his Instagram, become one of the 48 followers, and double these numbers, because he's got some really cool Milky Ways that'll become a lot of fun to follow and see where he goes. Plus, I just love seeing Milky Ways in Europe. That is awesome, Roland. So let's talk about it. What makes me so darn envious? Roland, I look at this image, and right off the bat, I really love the vast vista that you have from this side to this side. Even with the curve, I think it's fantastic. I don't care about flattening the horizon every time. I like that there's this chalice, this sort of cup of land with the arch of the Milky Way above it. It looks really cool to see these two shapes together, like an open mouth in awe, looking out at this view, seeing Innsbruck in the background. I'm sure Tyrol is an area up in the mountains more, but just the light pollution. It's a perfect lesson in light pollution, as you can see that this light pollution really only stretches to about here. Why? It's heavily light polluted. Why isn't this just blowing up the sky? It's not blowing up the sky because he got further away from it. And that light bloom right in it, right next to it, obviously overtakes the whole screen. And the further you can get away from that light pollution, the more you can mitigate it and pull it down. And if it's down in your frame and it's not touching your Milky Way up here, then you are golden. So I just love his composition based entirely around the panorama, focusing on the whole scene and then giving us some skill with him down here in the bottom. So it immediately pops with the green versus the bluish purple in the sky, the mountain range and the light pollution pulling silhouettes of the trees off of it, and making sure that we see the scenery plus the sky, the night sky. Just a fantastic job. Really well done, Roland. Love the image. Well freaking done. Awesome. Remember, right here or right down below, you can see at Roland Scallett. Go to his Instagram and follow him today. Thanks for watching Milky Way Wednesday with me, guys. It has been awesome to do pre-recording. It's already more successful and getting more eyes on Milky Way Wednesday. My whole goal is to get you guys out there on an adventure of your own and to teach Milky Way photography like Johnny Appleseed. Go across the world and spread the information of Milky Way photography, knowing that a lot of people think that it might be a tough buy-in, or it might be an expensive buy-in, or it might just be a lot of learning curve to get there. It doesn't have to be. Do those two things right and you got it. Invest $5 in a Carson LumiLoupe. Capture what you can. It doesn't matter how new you are. You can capture a good Milky Way. Remember, hit me up with any emails or questions that you want, and I'll feature it at this point in the Milky Way Wednesday episode, and it's milkywaywednesday@gmail.com. Ask me any questions you want. I'll answer them here. For now, get out there and have a photog adventure of your own, guys, and have a great week. See you later. Cloud cover here is pretty solid. So hopefully the 2.5 hour drive is gonna be worth it. We made it here. Let's find our spot. This is called Swinging Bridge South Campground. It does suck that I can't do more of these in the daytime.